The forbidden word. The desert planet was silent. Wind carried dust across the endless dunes, whispering secrets of battles long forgotten. A lone human soldier, Captain Ryan Hale, walked carefully through the rocky valley. His armor was scratched, his sword strapped to his back, and his eyes scanned every shadow. He had come here searching for resources, but what he found was something far more dangerous. From the far side of the canyon, a figure appeared. At first glance, Ryan thought it was a mirage, but as the figure stepped closer, the truth revealed itself. She was not human. Her skin glowed a deep shade of blue, traced with burning orange markings that pulsed like living fire. Her tall, slender frame moved with the grace of a predator, and her glowing eyes locked onto him like blades. Ryan froze. He had read stories of these warriors, aliens known for their deadly combat and merciless strength. They were feared across the galaxy. And now, one of them stood before him. The alien girl stopped just a few feet away. Her braided hair hung down her shoulders, and pieces of silver armor gleamed in the harsh sunlight. She tilted her head, studying the human like a hunter studying prey. Ryan's heart pounded, but he forced himself to stand tall. She spoke first. Her voice was sharp but strangely melodic. "A human dares to walk here? This world is not yours." Ryan swallowed hard. "I didn't come to fight," he said. His voice was calm, but inside, tension gripped him. The alien narrowed her glowing eyes. "Every human says that, and yet blood always follows." Ryan tried to ease the moment with words. He studied her face, her fierce expression, the strange beauty of her glowing tattoos. Without thinking, the words slipped out. "You know, you look kind of cute." The desert seemed to freeze. The wind itself stopped. The alien warrior's expression changed instantly. Her eyes flared with fire, her jaw tightened, and her hand clenched into a fist. "What did you call me?" Ryan realized his mistake too late. On his world, cute was harmless. But here, he had no idea what the word meant to her people. "You dare insult me with that word?" she hissed. The orange markings on her skin glowed brighter, like molten fire running through her veins. Before Ryan could explain, she moved. Faster than his eyes could follow, she struck. Her fist slammed into his chest with the force of a meteor. The sound echoed through the canyon. Rocks cracked, sand exploded, and Ryan's body was thrown backward. He hit the ground hard, rolling across the dust, his armor dented and his lungs gasping for air. The impact should have killed him. On her planet, no creature survived such a blow. The alien girl stood tall, her breathing steady, her eyes blazing. She expected silence. She expected death. But as she watched, Ryan moved. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up from the sand. Blood trickled from his lip, but he was still alive. The alien's eyes widened. "Impossible," she whispered. Ryan coughed, every bone in his body screaming with pain. He looked up at her with a weak smile. That really hurt. Her people had legends of warriors, of unbreakable spirits, but never had anyone risen after her strike. She stepped closer, her anger mixing with curiosity. Who was this human? Why did he not fall? Ryan wiped the blood from his chin and met her fiery gaze. Despite the pain, he did not back down. "I didn't mean insult," he said. His voice was low but steady. "On my world, calling someone cute means admiration." The alien warrior stared at him, confusion flickering across her face. For the first time, doubt touched her fiery pride. She had expected to crush him, to erase his existence with one strike. But instead, he stood before her, wounded, broken, but unyielding. The silence stretched. The desert wind returned, sweeping across the battlefield. She raised her hand again, uncertain if she should strike once more or step back. Ryan held his ground. His heart raced, but his eyes never left hers. The human soldier and the alien warrior stood locked in a moment of tension, a clash of two worlds. For her, the word cute was unforgivable. For him, it was the truth. And so began a story that would shake not only this planet, but the fate of two species. The blow that should have killed. The air still trembled from the force of her strike. Dust hung in the sky, glowing orange under the harsh light of the twin suns. The alien girl warrior, known among her people as Kilira, stood frozen. Her chest rose and fell slowly, her burning eyes fixed on the impossible sight before her. The human was alive. No one had ever survived her blow. Entire beasts twice his size had fallen with shattered bones. Warriors of her own kind had been crushed beyond recognition. Her fist carried the strength of her world, a strength that came from generations of survival on a planet where even the air seemed to fight against life. Yet this fragile-looking human soldier now pushed himself back onto his knees, coughing, spitting blood, but still alive. Ryan groaned, clutching his chest. Every rib felt cracked, but his heart still beat. The armor that protected him was crushed inward, sparks flickering where the impact had bent the power circuits. His vision blurred, but he forced his body to move. Falling here meant death, and he had never been the kind of man to give up. Kilira's lips parted slightly as she whispered to herself, "Impossible." She stepped closer, her heavy boots leaving deep prints in the sand. "You should be dead," she said. "Not even the strongest of my kind can stand after that." Ryan managed a weak grin. "Well, I've always been stubborn." Her eyes narrowed, suspicion and curiosity mixing like storm clouds. She crouched down, her glowing markings pulsing brighter as if reacting to his presence. Her hand hovered close to his throat, ready to end what her strike had failed to finish. But something held her back. He was not afraid. His body trembled from the pain, but his eyes held steady as they looked into hers. Most creatures begged, cried, or broke under her gaze. This human, however, met her like an equal, even while drowning in pain. The desert around them fell silent. The sound of distant winds was swallowed by the tension between them. Ryan coughed again and whispered, "If you want to finish it, do it. But if you're curious why I called you cute, you should let me explain." The word again. Goo. Her jaw tightened. Her people considered that word a curse, a dismissal of strength, a way to reduce a warrior to something soft and weak. Yet this human spoke it as if it carried no poison, no mockery. His voice was raw, not mocking but sincere. Kilira pulled her hand back, though her glowing eyes never left his face. She stood and turned slightly, looking toward the ridge where sharp rocks jutted into the sky. Her mind was unsettled. She had been trained to kill without hesitation, but something inside her whispered that this human survival was no accident. Behind her, Ryan tried to rise. His legs shook as he forced himself up onto his feet, staggering but refusing to fall. Pain stabbed through his chest like fire, but he clenched his jaw and endured. Kilira spun back to face him, startled once again. "Stay down," she growled. "Your body cannot take more." Ryan smirked, though his lip bled. "You hit harder than anyone I've ever met, but I'm not staying down." The courage in his voice made her pause. In that moment, she realized something terrifying. She could not read him. She could predict every beast, every warrior, every enemy's breaking point. But this human? He had none. Far in the distance, shadows began to move. Other warriors of her clan were approaching. They had sensed the strike, felt the tremor of her power through the sand. Soon they would see her failure. The first time her blow had not claimed a life. Kilira looked back at Ryan. Her mind raced. If her people saw him alive, they would not question him. They would question her. And among her kind, doubt was as deadly as any blade. "Walk," she commanded suddenly, grabbing his arm and pulling him forward. Ryan stumbled but kept pace. "Where are you taking me?" She glanced at him, her eyes glowing dangerously. "To my people. They must see what you are. They must see the human who should not be alive." Ryan chuckled weakly. "Great. I've always wanted to meet the neighbors." Her grip tightened, but her face betrayed a flicker of something she had not felt in years. Uncertainty. As they moved across the desert together, the silence between them carried more weight than any words. Ryan's mind burned with questions. What did cute mean here? Why had his survival unsettled her so deeply? And why did her fiery eyes, filled with rage, seem to hide something else beneath them? Kilira's thoughts, however, were even darker. She had struck him with the blow of death, and he lived. That meant only one thing in the eyes of her people. The prophecy had begun. The aliens' doubt. The desert stretched endlessly as Kilira marched forward, dragging Ryan by the arm. His steps were unsteady, but he refused to collapse. Every movement sent pain shooting through his chest, yet he held on, determined not to show weakness. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by the crunch of boots on sand and the distant howl of desert winds. Ryan glanced at her glowing tattoos. They pulsed brighter whenever she looked at him, as if her body itself reacted to his presence. He thought of speaking, maybe joking, but her fierce expression warned him to stay quiet for now. Soon, sharp structures appeared on the horizon. Black stone spires, carved by alien hands, rose like jagged teeth from the ground. At their base lay Kilira's camp. Fires burned in wide pits, and alien warriors moved like shadows around them, their weapons gleaming in the dim light. The sight was both majestic and terrifying. As they entered, heads turned. The warriors froze, their glowing eyes narrowing at the sight of Ryan. Murmurs spread quickly, low and sharp like blades scraping stone. A human, one voice spat. Alive after her strike, whispered another. Impossible. Ryan felt their stares pierce him like spears. He knew instantly. He was not welcome here. Kilira shoved him into the center of the camp. Warriors circled, their faces painted with suspicion and hatred. A towering elder, covered in dark armor and glowing lines brighter than any other, stepped forward. His presence silenced the crowd. Kilira, the elder said, his voice deep as thunder. What have you done? She bowed her head slightly. I struck him, with full force. He still stands. A ripple of disbelief ran through the tribe. Some snarled, others muttered words of old legends. The elder's burning gaze turned to Ryan, studying him like a puzzle that should not exist. Ryan straightened as much as his battered body allowed. He met the elder's stare without flinching. Nice place you've got here, he said, his tone calm but laced with defiance. The tribe erupted in growls and angry shouts. Only Kilira's raised hand silenced them again. She spoke louder this time, her voice steady but hiding her own confusion. He survived what none of us could. The prophecy speaks of a stranger who will not fall, even to the death strike. Perhaps he is the one. The elder's eyes narrowed. Do you claim this fragile human is chosen? That the old prophecy walks in his skin? Kilira hesitated. Her pride battled her doubt. She had wanted to kill him, to prove herself again. But deep inside, she could not ignore what she saw. Ryan's survival was no accident. Something about him was different. The elder raised his hand, and the circle of warriors tightened around Ryan. If he is truly unbroken, let him endure the trials. If he fails, he dies. If he survives, his voice grew heavy with warning. Then perhaps the old flames have returned. Ryan smirked despite the pain. Great. I just love trials where the losing option is death. Kilira shot him a sharp look, but deep in her eyes flickered something strange. Respect, maybe even fear. She had never doubted her strength before. Now, doubt gnawed at her every thought. That night, Ryan was chained near the fire pit. Alien children peeked from behind tents, staring at him as if he were a ghost. The warriors avoided him, whispering in harsh tones about curses, omens, and forbidden legends. Kilira sat nearby, silent, sharpening her blade. The glow of her tattoos cast long shadows across the sand. She watched him through the flames, her mind restless. Why did he survive? Why did his words sting like truth instead of mockery? And why, when she looked into his eyes, did she feel that her world was about to change forever? Ryan leaned against the chain, his voice breaking the silence. So, these trials, what do they involve? Running, puzzles, maybe an eating contest? Kilira's lips twitched, almost forming a smile, but she forced it away. They involve pain, suffering. No human has ever passed them. Ryan chuckled softly, ignoring the ache in his ribs. Good, then I'll be the first. The fire cracked, sparks flying into the night sky. Around them, The tribe watched in silence, waiting to see if the prophecy was truly alive. And as the stars burned above the desert, Kilira realized something terrifying. Her deadliest strike had failed. Her certainty was broken. And in the human's stubborn smile, she saw the beginning of a truth that might shatter her entire world. The warrior's trial. The next morning, the desert sky burned red as the twin suns rose over the black stone spires of the alien camp. The entire tribe gathered around the ritual grounds, a wide circle of scorched earth where countless warriors had been tested and countless had fallen. Chains clinked as Ryan was dragged into the center. His body was still battered from Kilira's strike, his ribs aching with every breath. Yet he stood tall, refusing to bend his knees. Kilira walked beside him, her expression hard, but inside her mind swirled with doubt. She had brought him here expecting the tribe to kill him quickly. Instead, the elder had invoked the trials, and now she could not look away. Something inside her demanded she watch. The elder stepped forward, his voice echoing across the arena. This human has survived what none should, but words and accidents prove nothing. Today, he will face the trial of endurance. If he breaks, he dies. If he endures, then perhaps the prophecy breathes. The crowd roared with approval, their glowing tattoos flickering like fireflies in the dusk. Warriors stomped their weapons against the ground, their voices rising in a rhythmic chant. Ryan gave a dry laugh. Endurance trial? Huh? Sounds like gym class back home. The elder ignored him and signaled. Two massive warriors advanced, their bodies covered in thick armor plates, their eyes burning like molten gold. Each carried a heavy staff tipped with spikes. Kilira felt her heart tighten. These were no ordinary fighters. They were executioners. The trial began. The first warrior swung his staff, the air cracking with the force. Ryan raised his arms, blocking instinctively, but the impact slammed him to the ground. Dust exploded around him as the crowd roared. "Stay down," the elder commanded. But Ryan coughed, spat blood, and forced himself to rise again. His legs shook, his arms trembled, but he stood. "Not done yet," he muttered. The second warrior charged, staff striking like a thunderbolt. It slammed into Ryan's shoulder, sending him spinning across the ground. Pain screamed through his body, but he clawed at the dirt and dragged himself upright once more. The tribe grew restless. Murmurs spread. No human should last this long. No outsider should still be breathing. Kilira's nails dug into her palm. She wanted to shout at him to stop, to surrender before the trial crushed him. Yet another part of her, one she barely understood, wanted him to keep going. The warriors circled him again. Their staff struck again and again, each blow heavier than the last. Ryan fell, rose, fell again, and rose once more. His face was bloodied, his armor cracked, but his eyes blazed with unyielding fire. Every time the crowd expected him to stay down, he defied them. Every time the elder's lips curled with satisfaction, Ryan shattered it with another step forward. Finally, one warrior slammed his staff across Ryan's back, dropping him to his knees. The crowd cheered, sure it was over. Kilira stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Enough. He has endured more than any human should." But Ryan raised a trembling hand, stopping her. He pushed against the sand, blood dripping from his chin, and forced himself back to his feet. "No, I'm still here." The crowd fell silent. Even the warriors hesitated. Ryan stood tall, swaying slightly, but his voice carried across the arena. "You want endurance? This is what humans do. We fall, we bleed, but we keep standing. No matter how many times you knock us down, we rise again." The silence was broken by whispers, fearful, awed whispers. The elder's eyes narrowed, but even he could not deny what he saw. Kilira's chest tightened as she looked at Ryan. For the first time in her life, she felt the strange weight of pride for someone not of her kind. The elder finally raised his hand. "Enough. The human has endured." The warriors stepped back, lowering their staffs. The crowd erupted, some in anger, some in awe. The prophecy had been whispered for generations, and now many believed it stood before them in the shape of a fragile human who refused to fall. Ryan stumbled, nearly collapsing, but Kilira caught him before he hit the ground. Their eyes met, hers glowing with fire, his with exhaustion yet unbroken will. "You should be dead 100 times over," she whispered. Ryan smirked weakly. "Yeah, people tell me that a lot." The tribe looked on, torn between fear and belief. The trial of endurance had been survived, and in that moment, Kilira knew her world would never be the same again. The revelation. Night fell heavy on the alien camp. Fires burned high, throwing red and gold light across the black stone walls. The whispers of the tribe had not stopped since the trial. Some called Ryan a liar, others a demon, and a few dared to whisper the word prophecy. Ryan sat near the edge of the arena, his body battered, his armor barely holding together. His ribs screamed every time he breathed, but he did not let it show. He had survived the trial of endurance, but deep down he knew this was only the beginning. Kilira stood nearby, her arms crossed, her glowing tattoos flickering like restless fire. She watched him silently, her mind caught between pride and fear. She had seen him endure blows that would crush her strongest warriors. She had seen him rise again and again. It was something she could not explain. The elder approached slowly, his tall frame casting a shadow over them both. His voice thundered. "One trial does not prove destiny. The prophecy speaks not only of endurance, but of fire, of blood, and of choice. Tomorrow, he will face the duel of truth." The crowd roared approval. Warriors stomped their weapons, chanting the old words of judgment. Ryan looked up at Kilira, his voice dry but steady. "Duel of truth? Sounds fun. What do I have to do? Wrestle one of those executioners again?" Kilira's lips tightened. She spoke softly, so only he could hear. "It means you fight me." Ryan blinked. "Wait, what?" Her gaze did not waver. "If you survive against me in combat, the tribe will believe you are chosen. If you fall, they will accept your death as proof that you are nothing." Ryan leaned back against the stone, exhaling sharply. "So basically, either way you win?" But Kilira did not smile. For the first time, her fiery eyes showed hesitation. She had been raised to be the strongest, to strike without doubt. Yet the thought of killing him twisted her chest in ways she had never felt before. That night, while the tribe prepared for the duel, Ryan lay awake, staring at the alien stars. His body begged for rest, but his mind raced. Why was he still alive? Why did she not finish him when she had the chance? And why did her eyes, glowing like embers, feel less like a predator's and more like something else? Morning came quickly. The tribe gathered once more in the arena. The duel of truth was sacred. No one could interfere. It was not about strength alone. It was about destiny. Kilira entered first, her armor gleaming, her braided hair whipping in the desert wind. The tribe chanted her name, their voices full of devotion. She had never lost a duel. Ryan entered slowly, his steps heavy but steady. The crowd fell silent, their glowing eyes narrowing on him. A single human, broken and bloodied, daring to face their strongest warrior. The elder raised his staff. "The duel of truth begins now." Kilira attacked first. Her movements were lightning, her blade slicing through the air with deadly precision. Ryan barely dodged, the strike grazing his armor and sending sparks flying. The force nearly knocked him off his feet. She pressed forward, every strike faster, harder, meant to end him. Yet Ryan's stubborn resilience kept him standing. He blocked with his arms, rolled across the sand, barely escaping death again and again. The crowd roared with every near kill, their excitement building. To them, it was only a matter of time. But then something shifted. In the middle of the duel, Ryan spoke through his ragged breath. "I didn't insult you when I called you cute." Kilira froze for a heartbeat, her blade inches from his throat. Ryan met her eyes, his voice raw but steady. "On my world, it means beautiful, strong, someone you admire." "I meant it." For the first time, Kilira's blade trembled. The fire in her eyes flickered with confusion. She had been trained to see weakness in every word, every gesture. But his eyes, they held no mockery, only truth. The tribe watched in shock as she hesitated. Ryan pushed himself up, barely able to stand, but refusing to lower his gaze. If this duel is about truth, then here it is. I respect you. Even if it kills me, I won't take it back. A hush fell over the arena. Kalira's heart pounded. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever survived her strikes and still dared to call her strong and beautiful in the same breath. The elder's voice cut through the silence. Finish him. Kalira looked down at Ryan, her blade still raised. Her people demanded blood. The prophecy demanded choice. And her heart demanded something she could not yet name. For the first time in her life, Kalira did not know what to do. The alliance. The arena was silent. Kalira's blade hovered just above Ryan's chest, glowing with deadly heat. One strike and it would end. One strike and the tribe would roar her name again, proud that their strongest warrior had destroyed the outsider. But she did not move. Ryan, bruised and bleeding, looked up at her with steady eyes. His body screamed with pain, but his voice was calm. Do it if you must, but know this. I never lied to you. Her grip trembled. In her culture, hesitation was weakness. Yet something inside her refused to let her blade fall. She saw not weakness in him, but a fire she had never witnessed before. A fire that survived her blows, her trial, her fury. Whispers spread through the crowd. Why does she wait? Strike. End him. The elder's voice thundered. Kalira, obey the law. Finish the duel. Her heart pounded. She had never disobeyed. But her instincts, sharp as blades, told her this human was not meant to die here. With a sudden motion, Kalira swung her blade, past his chest, striking the ground instead. Sparks flew, the sand splitting from a force. Gasps echoed across the arena. She turned to the crowd, her voice strong. The human has spoken truth. His strength is real. I will not kill him. Chaos erupted. Warriors shouted in rage, some demanding her punishment, others whispering that the prophecy had begun. The elder's eyes burned with fury. You betray your people for an outsider. Kalira stood tall, her blade still glowing. No, I choose to see with my own eyes. He endures what none of us could. That is not weakness. That is destiny. Before the crowd could react further, she grabbed Ryan and pulled him out of the arena. He staggered beside her, barely able to walk. You know, he muttered with a half-smile, if this is your idea of saving me, it still hurts like hell. Be quiet, she snapped, but her tone lacked its usual sharpness. She dragged him through the camp until they reached a secluded cave outside the spires. The glow of her markings lit the dark walls as she lowered him gently against the stone. Ryan winced, holding his side. Why didn't you kill me? Kalira's eyes burned in the dim light. Because I saw truth in your eyes. You were not mocking me when you spoke. And because she hesitated, the words heavy on her tongue. Because you should be dead, yet you live. I cannot ignore that. Silence filled the cave. The fire between them was no longer just anger. It was something unspoken, fragile, but growing. Ryan chuckled weakly. Well, I'll take that as the nicest thing anyone said to me today. She frowned, confused by his humor, but felt a strange warmth beneath her chest. It unsettled her more than any battle ever had. Outside, voices rose. The tribe had discovered her absence. Warriors shouted, preparing to hunt. The elder's voice carried through the night air, full of wrath. Find them. She has betrayed us. The human must die. Kalira tightened her grip on her blade. She turned to Ryan. They will come. And when they do, they will kill us both. Ryan leaned back, exhausted but smiling faintly. Guess that makes us teammates now. Her eyes narrowed, but she could not hide the flicker of respect and something more that crossed her face. For the first time in her life, Kalira stood not as a warrior of her tribe, but as a protector of something far greater, a choice she made herself. The desert wind howled outside, carrying the sound of marching warriors. The night was no longer safe. Their bond had been forged in fire, but now the fire would consume everything around them. And together, human and alien would face the wrath of an entire tribe. The final choice. The desert night was restless. Fires burned high in the alien camp, their flames twisting like angry spirits. The tribe had gathered, hundreds of glowing eyes locked on the two figures dragged into the center of the arena, Ryan and Kilira. Chains bound Ryan's wrists, his face bruised, his armor shattered. Kilira walked beside him without chains, but her honor was gone. Her people looked at her not as a warrior, but as a traitor. The elder raised his staff, his voice like thunder. Kilira, daughter of fire, you have broken the law. You spared the human. You stand against your people. For this, you will be judged. His eyes turned to Ryan. And you, outsider, will die tonight. Your blood will erase this insult to our kind. The crowd roared, stamping their weapons against the ground. Execution was certain. Ryan stood weak but unyielding. His body trembled, yet his voice carried across the arena. You think killing me will make you strong? No. True strength is not in how hard you strike, but in how much you can endure. I've faced your blows, your trials, your hatred, and I'm still here. That is the truth of humanity. The elder sneered. Empty words. You will bleed like the rest. Kilira stepped forward, her blade flashing in the firelight. No, he will not bleed alone. If he dies, then I die with him. Gasps erupted through the tribe. The elder's face twisted with rage. Then so be it. You will both burn. Warriors surged forward, weapons raised. The ground shook with their charge. Ryan's chains shattered. Kilira's blade had cut them in one swift motion. She tossed him a broken staff, the only weapon he could wield. Their eyes met for a brief second. No words, only silent trust. Then the battle began. The first wave of warriors struck, spears flashing in the firelight. Ryan blocked one, the impact rattling his bones, then shoved the staff into the sand, tripping another. Kilira moved like fire itself, her glowing tattoos blazing as she cut through her kin with speed and precision. The tribe was powerful, but so were they together. Ryan fought with every ounce of stubborn will left in him. Every strike sent pain tearing through his ribs, but he refused to fall. Kilira covered his blind side, moving with deadly grace, her blade flashing in arcs of light. The crowd's roar turned from rage to confusion. Warriors fell one after another, unable to crush the strange bond between human and alien. The prophecy whispered louder in every heart. The outsider who would not fall, and the warrior who stood beside him. The elder finally stepped forward, his staff blazing with energy. Enough. This ends now. He swung with terrifying force. Ryan barely raised his staff in time, the clash sending a shockwave through the arena. The weapon splintered in his hands, but he held firm. Kilira leapt forward, striking at the elder, but his strength was immense. He pushed them both back, his fury shaking the ground. Ryan gasped for breath, but stood tall again. You can hit me 100 times. You can break every bone, but you'll never break my will. The elder roared and struck once more, but this time Kilira moved with him. Together, she and Ryan countered, her blade slicing across his staff, Ryan driving the broken wood into the elder's chest with all his remaining strength. The elder staggered, disbelief in his burning eyes, then collapsed. Silence fell over the arena. The tribe stared at the fallen elder, then at Ryan, bloodied, broken, but still standing, and Kilira at his side, her blade lowered but steady. Whispers spread like wildfire. He endures. The prophecy, it is true. Kilira looked at her people, her voice steady and strong. This human is no enemy. He is proof that strength is more than blood. It is will, it is choice, it is truth. Ryan leaned on the broken staff, his chest heaving. He managed a faint grin. And for the record, I still think you're cute. For the first time, Kilira laughed, a sharp, short sound that startled even herself. The tribe bowed their heads, torn between fear and awe. The prophecy had come alive before their eyes. As the night faded and the first light of dawn broke over the desert, Ryan and Kilira stood together, not as enemies, not as rivals, but as two warriors bound by respect, fire, and destiny. The story of the human who survived the impossible and the alien girl who chose him over tradition would echo across the stars.